Hey, welcome back, everyone. Well, it's Monday. Trump is still not in jail, and it looks like, well, the case is turning out how we've been discussing it probably would turn out, which is the case against Trump, at least in New York, is crumbling. And not only is it crumbling, but that big contraption that was built is now backfiring. And the DA who tried launching this whole thing against Trump is now claiming Trump spread rumors, created false expectations, and may now himself be investigated. Interesting result from all of this. Also, folks, we talk about where things are heading, some of Trump's political campaigns, because in a weird way, this has propelled Trump really into the public eye yet again and is making him the very visible forerunner, not just in the elections, but also, I think, in American political debate in general. And often, you may have heard the saying, folks, what you resist persists. And the nature of dialectics tends to be that whatever people focus on, tends to be the narrative, or the focal point of the country tends to be the focal point of debate. And Trump has a very call it good or bad, but he has a talent at making himself the focal point. I know people call him a narcissist because of this, but for politics, he's very good at it. Take it for what you will. We'll talk about this, other stories, folks. A lot to talk about this week in general. I'll probably go into tomorrow what's happening with Russia moving nuclear weapons now. Some wild stuff going on. But I want to talk about Trump today, what's happening with him, the alleged arrests, which are not happening, it looks like now, and where things are heading. And folks, thank you so much for being here. Those of you Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, we will jump over exclusively to Epoch TV after about 25 minutes, so be sure to join us there. That said, folks, let's talk about the first story. Let's jump into it. Now, let's explain where things are at. Basically, the DA in New York was saying he was suggesting he was going to arrest Trump. It was actually Trump who said that he was going to be arrested. And Trump claimed that, based on leaked information, they're going to arrest me on Tuesday. That was last week. It didn't happen. The DEA now is blaming Trump, saying, Trump, you tried creating false accusations. But the big thing here is that they did try to arrest, or they at least tried to make a case to arrest him. Remember, they had a hearing. And remember what happened during that hearing. During the hearing, testimony was given that blew the case up from the inside. Let me show you. Daily Wire had the story, Game Changer. Costello testimony may have sunk Manhattan DA's case against Trump, Dershowitz says. And it says Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's possible criminal case against former President Donald Trump may have derailed this week, according to Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. It says on Monday, former federal prosecutor Robert Costello, who is actually pretty active on Twitter about the case, testified in front of a Manhattan grand jury over matters related to a $130,000 hush money payment, which I'll go into because actually there's even disinformation about that, to a porn star in 2016. A porn star notably who publicly stated repeatedly that there were no improper relationships with her and Trump. And so it turns out the thing is fake on multiple levels. I'll show you that later. But it says Costello told the grand jury that former Trump attorney Michael Cohen expected to be Bragg's main witness in any case against Trump and couldn't tell the truth if you put a gun to his head. It's a quote on that. In fact, he's even in prison because of this. It says Dershowitz appeared on Fox News on Tuesday night and told host Sean Hannity that, quote, Bob Costello has changed the case dramatically. I think that Bragg now has only two possible results from that. Number one, he can say, all right, I'm going to make the case without Cohen. Cohen is like the main witness they need to make this case. And the entire case rests on Cohen. Stormy Daniels herself has been coming out and basically saying she doesn't want to have anything to do with this. She and Trump never had sexual relationships. The whole thing is fake. And that's her statement. Cohen is the one driving this. And they're basically saying now that, again, Bragg has only two possible choices. Number one, he can say, all right, I'm going to make the case without Cohen. And as Dershowitz noted, he cannot use Cohen as a witness anymore. You getting that? That would be unethical because of the testimony that Costello gave. Costello being, again, tied in with this too. And Dershowitz said, or he could say, look, I have to drop the case. He may not be able to make it without Cohen, but if he can't make it without Cohen, he can't make it because no ethical prosecutor is allowed to put on as a witness somebody who has told the lies and has contradicted himself so much. So Cohen now has told multiple contradicting, lies at this point. He is a known serial liar. He's been convicted for it, so we can say that actually directly. And based on court determinations, he's the star witness in a case that rests almost entirely on him. And the star witness in a case that has been basically pushed to the side multiple times and that Bragg would have to elevate using unheard of means, using state law to elevate a misdemeanor to a federal crime, meaning it becomes federal, not state. This thing has fallen to pieces, in other words, folks. It's fallen to pieces and everyone's watching it happen. And Trump's using it. The Daily Beast said this, and this is, left-wing media, Daily Beast. They said possible Trump indictment delayed after grand jury meeting gets called off. So guess what? They hold this grand jury meeting last week, right? Costello goes up, gives his testimony, just destroys the credibility of Cohen, right? Costello destroys the credibility of Cohen, the star witness they need. Just after this, they were supposed to have another hearing, and the Attorney General canceled that meeting. So let me show you this. It moved from that one that blew up the whole case, and then he just dropped the whole follow-up hearing they were supposed to have on it. That's what happened. Daily Beast said, Americans have been waiting for a potential indictment of former President Donald Trump with bated breath. I think we've been hearing of a potential arrest of Trump for like 7 years now, if I remember. It's like, it's like one case after the next, right? But regardless, they're waiting for this next arrest of Trump with bated breath, the Daily Beast says. It says, but they'll likely have to wait a little longer. According to multiple reports, they're saying. They say high-ranking law enforcement officials told insiders with other outlets that Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg ordered the grand jury to investigate Trump's alleged hush fund payments to stay home on Wednesday, delaying the possible indictment. So they have the first hearing last week. That was right before they were supposed to arrest Trump. Trump was saying Tuesday they were going to arrest him. They have the grand jury hearing on that arrest. The case, blows up in front of the public eye incredibly. The star witness gets basically his credibility completely wrecked. And then A.G. Bragg tells the grand jury to just stay home on Wednesday. They didn't even meet. That's what happened. And they're saying the New York Times has confirmed the reports, with ABC New York adding that Bragg told the jury to be on standby for Thursday. Reasons for the postponement were not given. And here we are. It's Monday again, and Trump is still not in prison. Folks, I'm going to go into what's happening now with the case itself and some of the claims, some of how the narrative is shifting, because the shifting narrative will tell us a lot of where this case is possibly heading, but also actually how, there's a narrative, there's the legal case, but there's a narrative war on top of that, and who is winning the narrative war that's going to determine really who benefits from this come election season, come the time of the elections. Before we jump into that, folks, we do have a sponsor today, and that's American Essence. And American Essence is a magazine published through Epoch Times, which you may have seen. Actually, I have a copy on the desk. American Essence, fantastic magazine through Epoch Times. My wife is actually the chief editor of it. You can subscribe or check it out at americanessence.net. That's americanessence.net. Be sure to check it out. Again, my wife's the chief editor of that, and I can personally endorse the quality of it. It's very good. It says American Essence is a magazine for everyone who loves America, and it celebrates America's contribution to humanity. Great magazine, great content. Again, that's americanessence.net. And folks, let's go further into what's happening right now. Trump is being framed for calling for a new insurrection. And remember, there's a narrative debate on top of everything. You have two battles taking place. There's the surface legal battle. There's the surface kind of war over what's actually taking place in a real tangible sense. There's also the intangible kind of unseen battle. This is the battle for the narrative. Who benefits in public perception? And basically, you have two different branches of public perception right now. You have the Trump side, and Trump saying they're weaponizing the government, they're going after me, they want to go after you, but they're going after me. I'm talking about Trump's narrative, right? And Trump, in an interesting way, by becoming the target of the thing that he says exists, is doing two things. One, he's showing evidence that the politicized attacks based on, his stance and who he is exists. He's creating a public, very real example of the government engaging what he is framing as political persecution. And this is in front of a nation right now where many Republicans believe they are being politically persecuted, whether that's in censorship, whether that's in the behavior of the FBI and the Department of Justice overall, or whether it's in things like the school board meetings and other things like this. They believe they're being attacked. And by Trump framing the narrative on this, Trump being attacked through that system that he says is targeting you, what is Trump doing? Trump has created himself as a martyr. He has become a martyr of the risks people believe are focused on them. And that is actually something deeply culturally significant. Really, this is going to be one of the driving narratives for his campaign straight through 2024. And this is going to be one of the driving narratives he uses as well to try to make the other politicized attacks against him look like just that. He has found a way to take those political attacks and make them benefit him politically. The other narrative from the left is that Trump is basically launching a new insurrection, that he's going against rule of law, that he is in fact calling for new insurrections. And of course, they're tying this to the January 6th political narrative, right? The idea that Trump tried overthrowing democracy and the idea that Trump is continuing that trend. These are the two debates that the country's having right now. Remember, when it comes to any kind of debate, not just political debate, but in general, you always have a dialectic, two sides of a coin, two sides of an argument. And the debate between those two sides tends to be how societies arrive at truth. We can think of the Socratic dialectic, for example, and the process of asking questions in order to arrive at truth, right? The interaction of opposites. I should note I talk about a lot of times communist dialectics, which would be dialectical materialism. That's based on the struggle of opposites to drive the two sides further apart, not to find harmony between them. But regardless of this, the idea of dialectics is the opposite sides of a debate. And whether it's Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, Trump or anti-Trump, a lot of things in society really are divided into for or against dialectics. What Trump is doing with this is he's making the public focus on this dialectic. And he himself becomes the talking point. He himself becomes the focus of the nation. He himself does this I don't know if he does it intentionally or not, but by doing this, he becomes the debate. He becomes the talking point, and he can direct it in the way he wants. In a funny way, this deeply benefits him, actually, and I think he's aware that it actually benefits him. If you read his campaign book for 2016, he does talk about this strategy, actually, and how he manipulates media coverage. So I do believe he does it intentionally. But let me show you this, folks. This is Mediate. And it says, Trump ratchets up violent rhetoric. And decide which side you like. Decide which argument you believe in. I'm going to show you both sides. This is the way it's being framed from the left. Mediate. Trump ratchets up violent rhetoric, warns of death and destruction over possible charges. And it says, one day after posting what many saw as insightful language on social media. They often do this. What many people say, they're the ones saying it. The New York Times will say, many people agree. Like, who agrees? Like New York Times editors? Who agrees? The media establishment? They use this type of deceptive language oftentimes. But regardless, they say, what many people took, right? What many saw as insightful language on social media. They say former President Donald Trump took things to the next level, warning of, quote, potential death and destruction if he were to be charged with a crime. They say it's not clear which crime he was referencing, as he is currently under investigation for many crimes, as I mentioned. But it seems like the most likely case is the one being pursued by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg for falsifying business documents that allegedly covered up hush money payments to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Last weekend, Trump predicted he would be arrested. However, that never materialized, and the DA's office pushed back, saying that the former president had misled the public about a looming arraignment. It's disinformation to suggest that Trump was going to be arrested, even though they all said it. Let me show you Truth Social. This is Trump framing his side of the narrative now. And Trump said this: what kind of person can charge another person, in this case a former president of the United States who got more votes than any sitting president in history and leading candidate by far for the Republican Party nomination, with a crime, when it is known by all that no crime has been committed, and also known that potential death and destruction is such a false charge that and also known that potential death and destruction in such a false charge could be catastrophic for our country. Why and who would do such a thing? Only a degenerate psychopath that truly hates the USA. So that was the context of how Trump used the death and destruction warning. What Trump is saying is that he believes that if he is arrested, it will send a message to the American public that rule of law has essentially been lost, that basically an innocent person and a former president of the United States is being politically targeted. He believes that if that image is presented to the public and they believe that, well, an innocent person could be thrown behind bars, which many people who support Trump do believe is the case, and I'll show you the evidence suggesting that in fact is the case, not to mention the fact that this would be the government targeting a political opponent. This is Biden's main political opponent here. Would that cause riots? Would that cause, people to go on the streets and protest? Trump was calling for protests, of course. He's suggesting that that could result in death and destruction. He's warning, if you arrest me, this is going to be what's at risk. So take it for which side you want. Again, that's the nature of that argument. Marjorie Taylor Greene followed up on this. And she said this: Stormy Daniels explicitly denied having an affair with President Trump in her own written statement and signature. But I've never seen any of the other women who accused Bill Clinton of rape, nor Tara Reid, who accused Joe Biden of sexual assault, write any statements like this. Not a single one. And let me show you the letter, right? This is the one that's been circulating. And this is Stormy Daniels, an official statement in January 30th of 2018. And remember, folks, this is the basis of a lot of the media arguments around the case right now. This is the basis that Trump paid off a hooker. Trump paid off a porn star. Trump paid off a stripper. You hear all kinds of narratives, right? Trump, they're saying, paid off Stormy Daniels, a former porn. I don't know if she still does it, but she was a porn star. And she was accusing him of, basically saying that she had an affair. That's the narrative going around. She actually came out in 2018 and said that never happened. And, of course, the narrative is that Trump paid her off. Well, actually, the evidence coming out now suggests that Cohen paid her off out of his own money, and this was not Trump-related. It looks like the media may have just framed this whole thing whichever way they wanted. I'm going to show you both pieces of evidence. So 2018, this is the official statement from Stormy Daniels, from her lawyer, actually. Well, I think she actually might have written this herself, signed by her. And it says, again, January 30th, 2018, to whom it may concern, over the past few weeks, I have been asked countless times to comment on reports of an alleged sexual relationship I had with Donald Trump many, many, many years ago. The fact of the matter is that each party to this alleged affair denied its existence in 2006, 2011, 2016, 2017, and now again in 2018. I should add personally, now again in 2023. So she's been denying this repeatedly since 2006, and the media keeps saying it happened when even she herself said it did not happen. Now, some people would ask, well, isn't that because she was paid hush money? This is what she says. I am not denying this affair because I was paid hush money, as has been reported in overseas-owned tabloids. I am denying this affair because it never happened. I will have no further comment on this matter. Please feel free to check me out on Instagram. And she includes her Instagram link. She says, thank you, Stormy Daniels. There's the official statement from the woman who's the one they're trying to say Trump wronged, essentially, at this point. And then this came out. So the argument then is that, well, Trump paid hush money to this lady. She's been denying it since 2006, repeatedly denying it since then, over and over. It did not happen. It did not happen. Please leave me alone and stop saying it happened. That's been her public statement repeatedly, folks. And so the narrative as well, the issue Trump calls her horse face. It's not very nice, but whatever. The criminal part of this, or the alleged criminal part, which would normally be a misdemeanor, is that Trump used campaign funds to pay her off to shut her up, right? It goes back to 2006, folks. It's turning out now that Trump apparently did not even pay the money. It turns out Michael Cohen paid the money. And this was actually in a legal document from 2018. Congressman Troy E. Nehls said this. Michael Cohen used personal funds, not Trump's money, his own personal money, to pay Stormy Daniels and was never reimbursed by Donald J. Trump. You getting that? And he said, Alvin Bragg's witch hunt is over. And this, folks, is a legal document, a legal letter from February 8th of 2018. And this is what it says. The letter is from Stephen M. Ryan, counsel for Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen is a star witness. Everything rests on Michael Cohen. The whole case is on his shoulders. This is what the letter states. Quote, I am writing on behalf of my client, Michael D. Cohen. And it says, in a private transaction in 2016 before the U.S. presidential election, Mr. Cohen used his own personal funds to facilitate a payment of $130,000 to Miss Stephanie Clifford, a.k.a. Stormy Daniels. Neither the Trump organization, I don't know that's her actually, but this is the statement. Neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign was a part of the transaction with Miss Clifford, and neither reimbursed Mr. Cohen for the payment directly or indirectly. Contrary to the allegations in the complaint, which were entirely speculative, neither Mr. Cohen nor Essential Consultants, LLC, made any kinds of contributions to Donald J. Trump for President, Inc., or any other presidential campaign committee. And it says further in, the payment in question does not constitute a campaign contribution or expenditure, and therefore the FEC, Federal Election Commission, lacks jurisdiction in this matter. The complainants have not and cannot present any evidence to the contrary. Accordingly, the complaint should be dismissed. And that's the case there, folks. You have legal documents debunking both sides of debunking the two main people who the whole case involves, other than Trump himself, who also denies it. There's nothing. And remember, after the lawyer went forward and gave his testimony last week, Alvin Bragg canceled the follow-up hearing. Take it for what it's worth. So what's been the response from the DA's office? What has Alvin Bragg said in reaction to the fact that he tried having this grand jury hearing? He was looking for a way to bring charges against Trump. Trump said, hey, he's going to arrest me. Alvin Bragg came out and said this. He's saying that basically Trump is spreading false information. Trump is spreading rumors. He wasn't going to arrest Trump. He's merely looking into federal, accusations of a crime, and it's nobody's business to tell him what he can or can't do, and nobody's business to even question him, because the questioning of him is like federal interference in a state investigation, even though he's elevating it to a federal crime, allegedly, right? Which would make it, of course, it's a federal crime. It's federal, not state, but it's complicated, right? Zero Hedge has this. It says, an unprecedented inquiry. Manhattan DA fires off angry letter blaming Trump for the arrest rumors. This is all Trump spreading rumors. You getting that? It says Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who lied about growing up poor, has fired off an angry letter to House Republicans calling their investigation into his case against former President Trump over hush payments to Stormy Daniels, quote, an unprecedented, he spelled that wrong, inquiry into a pending local prosecution. Adding, quote, the letter only came after Donald Trump created a false expectation that he would be arrested the next day, and his lawyers reportedly urged you to intervene, referring to the House investigation now looking into Bragg. And it says further in, the response comes after a Monday letter from House Republicans on the weaponization of the federal government subcommittee, because guess what, folks? I talked about that whole Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner thing, and the contraption backfires and crushes the coyote. Well, in this case, Alvin Bragg is the symbolic coyote to Trump's Meep Meep Roadrunner. And the case is now turning against Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg is being investigated now. Alvin Bragg is being accused essentially of weaponizing the government. And Alvin Bragg is going to have to testify before the House of Representatives on this. Here's a letter from Alvin Bragg to the House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan and others on March 23rd of 2023. This is what they're saying. Alvin Bragg is saying this as his defense, right? So he is having to defend himself now on the accusation that he is using the government as a political weapon against a political enemy. And it's looking bad on him. There was even a radio interview that has now surfaced where Alvin Bragg, while campaigning, suggests he's going to go after Trump, meaning premeditated political targeting at that point. It's looking really bad for him. But this is his response. So take it for what it's worth. This is what Alvin Bragg is saying. He said, quote, the district attorney of New York is investigating allegations that Donald Trump engaged in violations of New York state penal law. Your letter, dated March 20th, 2023, the letter, in contrast, is an unprecedented inquiry into a pending local prosecution. The letter only came after Donald Trump created a false expectation that he would be arrested the next day, and his lawyers reportedly urged you to intervene. Neither fact is a legitimate basis for a congressional inquiry. Now, what would be a legitimate basis for a congressional inquiry? Well, falsified prosecution of a former president, the use of local law as a tool to interfere with the presidential election, the weaponization of government used for political purposes. All three of these would be justifiable congressional investigations, even if states and local law enforcement are engaged in the alleged acts. Because the concern is that local states, based on political interest, are using the levers of power of the legal system to interfere with the federal, with not just, federal elections and the election of a president of the United States, but also to mess with precedent, to mess with, things that impact deep political interest of the American people. Meaning, he's saying it's unjustified. It can be argued either way. Take it for what it's worth, right? The federal government normally cannot intervene in state law matters, but the states also can't, interfere with the presidential election without expecting some kind of oversight. If you start messing with the presidential election of the United States, you can expect some oversight. You can't just have a, political monopoly where, New York is very far left, right? So they have their own political views. You can't have a political monopoly using the levers of power however they want. So take it for what you will, right? And Alvin Bragg is going to be facing some serious investigations himself to see if this is about politics. Again, that's the accusation now against Bragg. And again, there's some evidence suggesting this is the case, like, for example, radio interviews he did while running for office, or, for example, the Soros money and the way that was framed by Soros, given as donations with intent for politicized prosecutions. But again, innocent till proven guilty. A.G. Bragg is being investigated to see whether he's innocent or guilty. He is now the target of this. Let me show you one more thing, then we'll jump over to Epoch TV. Epoch Times has this story. Trump lawyer says Manhattan DA Bragg should be investigated and an ethics complaint filed. Says Joseph Tacopino, an attorney of former President Donald Trump, has accused Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg of violating prosecutorial conduct in his case against Trump. And in an interview with Epoch Times, Tacopina noted that he had filed a recommendation to an oversight body requesting an investigation into Bragg. The remarks came a day after Alan Dershowitz, professor emeritus at Harvard Law School, said on Fox News' Hannity that Bragg should be investigated for bringing into the proceedings former Trump attorney Michael Cohen, who reportedly became a star witness of the grand jury investigation issues surrounding Trump's alleged involvement. I won't go into that again. It says Trump denied that, of course. Stormy Daniels denied it, and Cohen also, his lawyer, seems to deny it as well, but regardless. And here's a quote from them. They're saying, "I have never seen a weaker case, and in the end, I really do think that Bragg is worried about his own bar card, i.e. whether his bar card to, again, practice law." Says, "I think he's worried that if he brings this case and he uses a witness who he has to know is lying," because, again, Cohen is a serial liar. Cohen is a convicted liar, in fact, and Cohen's own public statements and even legal statements contradict the case they're trying to make. So there is basis to this claim, right? They said there could be investigations of Bragg, the DA himself, and there should be investigations, Dershowitz said, and other people are saying that should be the case now as well. Take it for what it's worth, folks. This is the way the case is going. But I want to go deeper into this because, well, Trump's actually using this. And it looks like actually it's benefiting him significantly in the polls. And not only this is tying into a new political narrative that is going to be one of the main narratives for 2024. Remember, I mentioned everything is on dialectics. Everything is on the debate between opposites. And where the public focuses tends to be where the debate is that determines the outcome. I mentioned to you the nature of Hegelian dialectics, the idea of thesis, antithesis, synthesis, and how people manipulate the debate of opposites in order to arrive at a set conclusion or a set change in the way things are done. One of Trump's skills, and I don't know if it's accidental or intentional, is that you have this well-oiled machine that tries to drive political debate, public debate, in a set direction. It's guns and abortion every single 4 years, and those are the two main topics we debate, and maybe tax is thrown in there. That's Republican and Democrat, the war party or the anti-war party, the pro-abortion party or the anti-abortion party, the pro-gun party or the anti-gun party. Which do you want? That's the normal political debate for the country. Trump has a talent at shifting that entire debate to whatever he wants to talk about. And what he wants to talk about now is the politicization of our legal system, the corruption within the American government, and the framing that this is the biggest problem we face. And guess what? Trump is now being targeted, and the targeting of him using what he claims is there is only justifying his case. And like it or not, Trump has made this the debate. This is the big political debate for 2024. This is going to be what we are debating as a nation for the next, year and a half. This is the debate Trump wants. And this is the debate that he is using right now. I'm going to explain this in a minute, folks. Before we go into that, though, we're going to jump over to Epoch TV, but let me show you a trailer. We're working on another documentary. Roman Balmakov, my colleague, he does Facts Matter. Roman is doing a documentary about the plan to make you all eat bugs, and it's called Eat the Bugs. They're looking for fun. They're doing a fundraising campaign for the documentary right now. So if you want to learn about the food crisis, are they trying to make you eat bugs? What's going on with this? Roman's doing a documentary. Let me show you the trailer now for that. Again, they're looking to fundraise for it right now. I'll show you that, and we'll jump over.
For the past 6 months or so, my team and I have been working on a full-length documentary project called Eat the Bugs, which exposes the topic that I believe is incredibly important to almost everyone, the global war on farmers, as well as the agenda that's behind the curtains that's actually pushing the entire thing. Now, as many of you know, this all started when my team and I traveled over to the Netherlands sometime last year in order to cover the farmer protests that were happening over there. And after meeting with the local farmers and hearing their stories about how they were quite literally being pushed off their generational farms by their government, well, I was shocked, to say the least. But after we dug deeper into it, it became obvious that this was not confined to the Netherlands. In fact, this war on farmers is indeed global. It's happening everywhere, including right here in the US. And for some odd reason, it coincides perfectly with this trend of celebrities promoting edible insects. And so we've been traveling for the better part of the last year on a mission to really, for one, understand this global war on farmers, the agenda behind it, as well as what it really means for the future of the food on our supermarket store shelves, as well as what common people like you and I, who are just caught up in the middle of all this, can actually do to prevent a future where our kids have no option rather than to eat bugs. And so right now, we're putting together all of the interviews and all of the findings from our journey into this new awesome documentary, the one that's called Eat the Bugs. And I really cannot wait to share it with you this upcoming summer. And if you would like to help back this project, to help with the funding in order to not only finish editing the documentary, but also to make sure that once it actually comes out, it reaches as many people across the world as possible, well, that would be absolutely awesome. You can head on over to epicoriginal.com/eatthebugs, or you can click on that link right there in the description box, and there you can sign up for more updates, you can share the project with your friends and family, and you can also donate to see the thing to fruition, as well as to share it out to ever more people. Because quite frankly, we here at the Epic Times, we've been pouring all of our money into this project to the point that we've been eating nonstop ramen noodles. And pretty soon, we might have to eat the bugs ourselves in order to fund it. And so if you want to help us out, please head on over to epicoriginal.com/eatthebugs and help bring this thing to light. Let's make it happen. This is gross.
Anyways, folks, it's Roman Balmakov. Actually, he and I sit together in the office. We have some funny banter together. If you want to back the documentary, the website for that is epochoriginal.com/eatthebugs. That's EPOCHORIGINAL, epochoriginal.com/eatthebugs. And again, they're doing fundraising for it right now. If you want to get on the project, that's the website. Go there. That said, folks, let's jump over to Epoch TV exclusively, and we'll go into what's happening in terms of the political debate for America and where things are heading with the narrative. It's an interesting discussion. So come join us there, and I'll see you in a moment. And folks, thank you for being here.